Hi everyone, I wanted to help you with constructing this evolutionary tree. It's not an easy feat. Even if you carefully follow directions, you might feel a little bit discombobulated. So I thought that what we would do is just talk through this together. If we go back, I did post this key for you for this last phylum, the Arthropoda. So at this point in time, you should have access to 3 keys for 4A, 4B, 4C, those labs, with these yes/nos. Okay, so that you should have now at your fingertips so that when you go to do the evolutionary tree, that you at least have the right answers to start from. Okay, so we said yes because all of these were traits that the phylum Arthropoda exhibits. So if we go down to the next page, it says building an evolutionary tree. Basically what it says, fill out this character matrix with yes or no in each box. So this is just transposing that information that you had before, or transposing the information that I gave you in the 3 keys, 4A, 4B, 4C. I will do that now and come back in just a few seconds. Okay, now what you see are the yeses and nos. So that means yes, the phylum exhibits that character, or no, that phylum does not. So take a look at these. If you're not feeling good about, for example, the fact that the phylum Platyhelminthes does not have a circulatory system, or maybe the phylum Annelida has segments but does not have jointed appendages, reach out to me directly and I'll help you with that. Okay, so moving on. This table below says identify or put a check mark to identify the ancestral and derived characters. Ancestral traits are the characters shared by all the organisms that we're considering here, okay? And the derived states are characteristics which only developed in certain groups of organisms. So let's take a look at these characteristics. When I look down through these characters, I have to ask myself, do all the animals have this character, circulatory system? If yes, then we're going to put a check, or I'm just going to put an X here in this cell for it's an ancestral character. If only certain phyla out of the 7 that we looked at have it, then we have to say it's derived. Because not all animals have it, we have to say it's derived. Okay. All right, segmentation. We know that the phylum Porifera, Cnidaria, Platyhelminthes, Nematoda, for example, do not have segmentation. So it's going to be derived because only a few phyla have that character. Bilateral symmetry. Again, we know that the sponges are asymmetrical. The cnidarians are radially symmetrical. And it wasn't until we got to the phylum Platyhelminthes that they begin to exhibit bilateral symmetry. So we're going to say that's derived. Jointed appendages appeared in the phylum Arthropoda. So we're going to say derived. Okay, now we take a look at this character, eukaryotic. If you remember from lecture, one of the characteristics of the kingdom Animalia is that they are all eukaryotic. So every single one of these characters, every single one of the phyla exhibited this character of being eukaryotic. So that one's going to be ancestral. Okay. Next, tissues were lacking in our first phylum, the Porifera, or the sponges, and then it appeared in the phylum Cnidaria. So again, since not all the phyla exhibit that character, we're going to say it's derived. Lastly, complete digestive tract first appeared in our phylum Nematoda, so we're also going to say it's derived. If I scroll down, now this is where it gets a little funky. It says, fill out the character matrix. Again, now we have all of our phylum names up here at the top. So we're actually going to combine that first yes-no table with that second small ancestral derived table. Let's see if I can make this clear for you. Fill out the character state matrix again. This time put a 0 for the ancestral state and a 1 for the derived state. Cross the box out if the organism does not exhibit the trait. Okay, so what I see here is, okay, we can do this first. Let's put zeros in for this ancestral trait. We already said that being eukaryotic is the ancestral trait. So I'm going to put a 0. All right, so that is done. Okay. Then I think the next easiest thing, it says cross the box if the organism does not exhibit the trait. So really what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the nose from that top table. So we're going to replace the nose from the previous yes/no table with, we're going to replace that with an X. Okay, so I'll shrink this down a little bit to make this a little bit easier. I'm also going to save this, and I'm going to just temporarily delete this. Now we can see them one on top of the other. All right, so what I'm going to do is wherever I have a no up here, I'm just going to put an X. This is fun. Okay, and we go down to tissues. Okay, and then lastly, complete digestive tract. Oops. Okay. All right, so after I've done that, now if we go back up here, it's going to say, let me just magnify it for you. It says we're going to put a 1 for the derived state. So anywhere where you put a yes up here for a character, now excluding this whole row here. So everywhere else where there's a yes, it becomes a 1. So Annelida gets a 1. Arthropoda gets a 1 for circulatory system, as well as Mollusca. For the character segmentation, again, we have a yes for Annelida, we have a yes for Arthropoda, and that's it. For bilateral symmetry, we have a yes for Nematoda, a yes for Annelida, Arthropoda, Platyhelminthes, and Mollusca. Jointed appendages, only one of these groups exhibited jointed appendages. Then we have our tissues. And complete digestive tract. Now I like this to look neat, so I'm going to center all of these cells. Okay. Now taking this, now it's going to ask you to rearrange some things. I think you can handle this part. But it says now change the order of the characters, so the character with the zero is on top, followed by the character with the most ones, and then the character with the least ones is on bottom. So it says refer to the example for plants on the next page. So if we scroll down, we're going to see something like this. Okay, so you're going to have something that looks like that. So this is the first character is that ancestral character. So I would put here a eukaryotic, because if we go back up here, that was our ancestral trait, right? It has all those zeros. Okay, next, the one with, it says, followed by the character with the most ones. Okay, so you can actually just count them up. Nematodes have 3 ones, cnidarians have 1 1, Porifera, and so on. Okay, so you're going to put next the character with the most ones. So that would be Arthropoda. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, let's try that again. We're talking about characters here, not the phylum names. So I messed up there. So let's go back up here, and we want to count across these rows the number of ones. So the circulatory system has 1, 2, 3 ones. Segmentation has 2 ones. Bilateral symmetry has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ones. Jointed appendages has 1, 1, and so on. Tissues 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. complete digestive tract, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the character with the most ones would be tissues. Okay, so then you're going to go back up and say, okay, what's the character with one just one less one? So after tissues, then we should have bilateral symmetry. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay. So what you're going to do is rank these like I was just doing, and then you're going to go back to the top, and you're literally just going to take all these things just as they are and copy and paste them. Okay. So you're just transposing or copying over those numbers, whether it's a 0 or a 1 or, okay, an X, into these rows like this. So you're going to finish that table up doing that procedure. Now, once you have all this, what we're going to do is rearrange the columns. So you can probably kind of see here a pattern. So we're going to rearrange the columns or the phylum names, and it says reorder the animals in the column so that the animals with the fewest ones are on the left and the animals with the most ones are on the right. So here we are actually talking about those animal phyla. Okay. All right. And so I think you're probably getting a pattern. You can have fun with that. And then you're going to have something that looks very similar to this character matrix for plants. And then what you're going to do is you're going to draw out an evolutionary tree using our animal phyla. And so here you would have those phylum that you saw up above. And then here what we have is the ancestral character is at the bottom. So this is the ancestral character. And then what you see is after each group, here we have algae evolved. Then we see embryo protection is going to separate all these groups of plants from the algae. So that was a new, this is actually a derived character. So I'm going to make it green. So mosses evolved after that. Then we see between the mosses and the ferns that another derived character evolved, and that was vasculature. And then our ferns clearly have that vasculature. But if you notice, they're not going to have seeds because that evolved after they dominated. So we see then seeds, gymnosperms then evolved, and then lastly we see that flowers evolved, and this really is going to set apart this penultimate group we call the angiosperms. So just to give you a hint, what you would have here, phylum Porifera. Okay, what you will have here at this terminal end, this dead end, will be that phylum Arthropoda. Okay, so let me know how I can help. I'm guessing that this is going to help tremendously.